Yo, what's up, everyone? I hope you're well. So, I thought I would finally tell my story of ADHD and my sort of journey with it. And the reason I'm making this is because it can help you if you feel like you have ADHD, whether you've obviously you probably haven't been diagnosed if you haven't been diagnosed. And obviously the tips and things that I learned from it and how I actually went on to achieve some good things. I was able to from that point of me discovering I had it and really trying to conquer my focus and performance, I was able to learn how to fight. I had 3 fights, two really dominant wins. I got in the best shape of my life year after year after year. I get in better shape. I traveled for about 2 years, mostly just living overseas, built an online business, lived fully independent for that time pretty much. Made friends with millionaires, built a really good network, good social life, good dating life, and honestly, that completely changed my life to keep it simple and transparent. Um, it's not to say that ADHD was the one thing that ruined my life, and that's the one thing I fixed, and it fixed everything, right? By the way, I don't have a course to sell you about ADHD and improving like that kind of thing, right? So when I was young, I was always an ADHD motherfucker. Like I just always was impulsive. I used to get angry at things quickly, impatient, couldn't focus on something that wasn't super high stimulating, played video games, all that kind of stuff. Let me just close my window. And it looks weird. But by the time I was 17, I wasn't doing well in school. Like I had a good friendship circle, but I just couldn't focus on schoolwork. I just felt like it was so boring, and I didn't see I didn't see I couldn't see through school. And I always knew, even at that age, even till now, I can't be motivated and build something unless I'm in immense pain and I need to do it, or if I really want to do it, right? That's like most humans, but with ADHD, I feel like it's super amplified, right? And I just didn't believe in the school system. I just thought it was complete bullshit. I didn't think I was made for university. I wasn't motivated to do it and get a job and whatever, right? I didn't know about business or anything. I just knew that fuck that. I wanted to at least do a trade. I wanted to like be an electrician or something, right? But my grades would always start off really good. Like my potential was good. I could have been an A+ student if I was motivated, but I just didn't believe in it. Right. So I would usually start off the year good grades and then just plummet, lose all motivation. Wouldn't really give a shit. Just scrape by year after year. I barely passed year 12. But anyway, so that's how I was in school and how I would perform. With things that required focus, right, and performance. But by the time it was the beginning of my final year, so year 12 in Australia, I pretty much diagnosed myself. Like I kind of suspected, like, oh yeah, I've got ADHD. Okay, this is why I can't focus. I've got ADHD. And so I actually told my mom, and we went in and got diagnosed. Sorry if you can hear that. We went in, I got diagnosed, and apparently I had ADHD, right? And we were like, okay, cool. Part of me was like, yeah, I have ADHD. I have an excuse as to why I can't focus. So anyway, we got on medication, and I tried it for like a few days. I didn't like it. I couldn't stand it. I felt like a different human being. I was struggling to eat as well. It was when I was getting into the gym. I was struggling to bulk up, and I just felt like it was changing who I was. I really liked who I was when I was 17. I had a good social life. I had many friends. Life was good. And two, it was hard to eat and drink enough water. So I was like, fuck that. I don't want to feel like a zombie, and I'm not myself. And I was like, cool. Anyways, I went through that year 12, going out partying, drinking, all that shit. Like, whatever. I just barely scraped by year 12. I think did I even turn up to one of the exams? I'm not sure. I didn't even check my final result, which is a big deal. We studied all these years to get this one score. I never even checked it. That's how much I was just like, nah, fuck that. I don't even care. Anyway, so that's 2018. That's about 7 years ago, right? Just about 7 years ago. And anyway, I go through that. I kind of know I've got ADHD, whatever. Start doing things like, I'm drinking every weekend. Start developing a habit of smoking weed, which isn't good. And that was something I battled for a little while. But anyway, I think the year after that, I just spent it. I'm gonna catch up on how I improved my life with ADHD in a sec. Let me just give you a little bit more context and backstory. So I finished year 12. The year after, I'm just working like a shitty factory job full time and going to the gym, and that was that. I'll just work, go to the gym, go home, smoke weed, watch YouTube videos. It was like that for a whole year. And then before you know it, 2020 is lockdown. And Melbourne, where I live, was the most locked down city in the fucking world. For 2020 and 2021, nearly the whole year was locked down for us. And me being me, like, I don't know, I kind of moved away. I moved away like 20 minutes away from my hometown where I grew up. And I was just super isolated. This really destroyed my health, to be fair. I was just staying at home, smoking weed, being indoors. I was still training, doing home workouts, but my mental health was just not very good at all. And, on top of that, smoking weed and playing games all night. Anyway, basically, I hit a rock bottom, which I'm not going to go too into, nor do I have the time to go into. But I just got to the point where I was just like so fucking useless. And I'm like, my brain doesn't work. I'm just so anxious all the time. Like, what hole did I dig myself in? Like, I'm just so lost as well. And then I was like, okay, well, I finally found some clarity. I found some self-improvement stuff, and I was like, okay, cool, I can do this thing. I can eat healthy and blah, blah, blah. But then the one thing I knew that I needed to conquer was my ADHD. And so the ADHD was kind of like the thing that led me on to learning about health, which led to all of this. Because I was like, what I learned about ADHD is I got a book, and in that book, he was really just talking about the fundamentals of health, how sleep affects ADHD, how diet affects ADHD, how exercise affects ADHD, supplementation, the dopamine system. I was always interested in these kind of things. And so that me figuring out I had ADHD at that early age, me knowing I had it, and then being in that point where I was like in a bit of a rock bottom, but wanting to improve myself, I use it as motivation to learn about health and stuff to improve my focus, because focus is really just a consequence of all the other things you're doing, right? It's the result of your mindset, of your dopamine system, of your clarity, of your diet. Did I already say diet? Of your sleep, of your exercise, etc. So I pretty much figured out, okay, in order for me to not fix, tame ADHD, in order to tame my ADHD and use it as my superpower, I have to just improve my health overall. There's no shortcuts. And I kind of enjoyed that journey. I would learn for a few months at a time. It'd be about gut health and then sleep and then all this stuff, right? I guess bit by bit, I sort of learned how to optimize sleep, how to optimize gut health, how to, use diet and all these kind of things to improve my my overall focus, right? And I'm going to get into the main things and things I still use to this day. And let me just tell you that, like, ADHD isn't something that you just solve once and it's gone. Like, I still struggle with it every now and then, or sometimes it's more often than others, right? But these are the things that I do to make sure that I'm able to focus and I'm able to tame it, right? So the first thing I'm going to talk about, and it's something that I think is overruling and people don't really talk about it, but it's that you want to try and do something your brain actually wants to do, because with ADHD, when you do something you're motivated to do and you actually like, you're going to beat everyone else. You're going to beat everyone else because you're doing the thing you want to do. With ADHD, it's very hard. I've noticed from other people, I'm mostly speaking about my experience, but I noticed for other people as well, it's very hard to focus on things you just think are stupid and that don't make sense, and that especially you don't like or see a future in it or a point in doing it, right? Take that advice now and run with it and see what you can do. Try and shift with whatever you're doing to doing it in a way that you like it, or do something you like. Try and change. Whether it comes down to hiring, changing, if we're talking business, we can change, the task you're doing. Maybe you outsource that, or you get other people to do that, or you change the niche you're helping, or change the marketing, whatever. Right? I've gone through changes recently with my business, changing the way I'm marketing myself, and I'm finding it way more enjoyable to make content and help people and that kind of thing. So yeah, ADHD people feel like they're in a prison when they're not doing something that they enjoy, because a lot of it is obviously got to do with the dysregulated dopamine system, which is the chemical that gets released in pursuit of something. So basically, it's the motivation chemical. It gets released when it wants you to do something, when your brain wants you to go get something. If you see a hot girl or something, like, your dopamine's going to get released and you feel like going to speak to her or whatever. Or if you're excited about something, that's that dopamine you get, right? Even same with addiction, that feeling you get of wanting to smoke weed or do all these things, that's dopamine getting released. So with ADHD, it's very dysregulated. It's just a bit fried. I want you guys to watch Andrew Huberman. He explains the in-depth of ADHD and how it is neurologically. I'm not a lab scientist, so go do that. I'm just going to tell you my experience, and what I think. So yeah, that's the first one. That you can only really, it's really good to just try and do the things that you want to do. There's going to be still things you don't want to do, but overall, you should be doing things in a direction that you want to do, right? That you believe in, that you like. So that's the first one. The next is that the fundamentals of health are crucially important. You need to learn to be a healthy person if you have ADHD. If you constantly go through life with ADHD and your sleep is inconsistent, your diet isn't dialed in, you're eating things that inflame your gut health and cause inflammation in your brain, and you're not managing your stress properly, you're not moving your body, exercising, especially harder exercise, you're just at a huge disadvantage. I just think managing your health manages your ADHD so much better. So let me get into the specifics. When it comes to sleep, watch my sleep video. Sleep is sleep. To get good sleep, it's quite basic. Okay, I'll touch on it a little bit. Finish your last meal 3 hours before bed. Avoid blue light 2 hours before bed. Lower stress 1 hour before bed. When you sleep, you only get in bed for sleep or sex, and you want it to be cold, dark, and quiet. And you want to sleep and wake up at the same time every day. And caffeine, stimulants, etc. 10 hours before sleep. I think that's everything. And make sure you breathe through your nose. That's pretty much the entire summary for getting optimal sleep. Supplements, magnesium glycinate, L-theanine, taurine, magnesium L-threonate. This is stuff that I recommend to my clients and me. By the way, if you want help one-to-one with your health and performance, then check the link in the description. Message me on Instagram saying health. Just say the word health and we'll speak from there. Anyway, that's that for sleep. Again, I've got a sleep guide video on this channel, so you can go ahead and watch that. So optimal sleep for people without ADHD and with ADHD, it's the same thing, right? Maybe with ADHD, you would incorporate more, maybe journaling, meditation, etc. But anyway, when it comes to diet, you need to understand that we're more sensitive to how foods affect us compared to other people, right? One thing we want to always include on a daily or multiple times a week is omega-3s. So are they getting it from wild caught fish? Because a lot of the farmed fish is quite terrible for your health and is bullshit. Or you take a good quality fish oil every single day, right? And probably take 1.5 to double the dose that they recommend. Omega-3s is amazing for ADHD. It really helps you focus. You'll notice your mood just feeling so much better. You just feel more motivated and just nicer. It lowers inflammation, right? So that's one thing with diet. The other thing is that we're more sensitive to processed carbohydrates and processed foods and oils in general. It tends to give us more brain fog and fatigue. It just fucks with our brain. I remember I was taking a protein powder that had a lot of artificial sweeteners in it and a few other things. And when I kept having the same meal, which was frozen berries, yogurt, protein powder. When I stopped having the protein powder, my brain felt so much better. And then when I did that for like a week to really know, and I'm like, wow, it just feels so much clearer and calmer. And it's almost like when I was having that protein powder, I was feeling a bit crazy. Like it was actually making me a little bit psychotic and weird. I couldn't focus. I was getting weird thoughts. Not like crazy, like I was gonna go kill someone, but it was fucking with my head real bad. And I mentioned it to a friend and he's like, no, I don't notice a difference. I'm like, okay, maybe it's me. Maybe it's the ADHD sensitivity to it, right? So clean diet, avoid the processed stuff, generic normal health advice you're gonna see me talking about on this channel, right? You definitely need to follow that. What else? You want to be spacing your meals out every 3 to 4 hours, as I recommend to most people. Don't have a large amount. Like that affects your focus a lot more if you have ADHD. When you have too much carbohydrates, especially at once, maybe only a few times in the day you have a lot of carbs. Afterwards, you're gonna have a you can have a dip in motivation, pretty much, right? So that's one thing to focus on. So that's that with diet. And of course, after that is obviously exercise. And the thing about exercise with ADHD is lifting weights doesn't really tend to cut it. It doesn't really give you that endorphin boost that you really want. And what I notice is playing sports and like intensely, like getting into that zone 4, zone 5, just gives you that endorphin rush for like a day and a half. And for that rest of the day, as long as you're eating enough and you're recovering, your sleep is good, that exercise just gives you so many endorphins. Like I'm speaking right now high on endorphins from the MMA training I did yesterday. So with exercise, don't just be a gym rat, like definitely incorporate intense exercise. There's a lot of research out there on like, why doing sprints or just running, like hard running, not jogging, when you get that runner's high, that kind of thing. It's super good for ADHD. If you can figure out a system that, you can do that at least a few days a week, like 3 days a week, you do your sport, whether it's soccer, football, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, that just makes you a lot more healthy, a lot more motivated and like healthy in general. Right? All right, cool. I've spoken about most of the fundamentals of health, which is kind of the boring stuff I have to get like out of the way, right? Other things I'd recommend for supplementation, obviously I recommended omega-3s. I would also recommend L-theanine, which helps you just calm down your focus. It's pretty much a thing found in green tea. It's an amino acid that helps you calm down. That's all I take. I take vitamin D, it lowers inflammation. that helps you focus. So I would take the vitamin D with your omega-3s probably after your first meal, right? And yeah, I've just given you all the principles really, obviously. Now let's move on to, I guess, routine and systemization, right? One thing I found with ADHD is I would always create a system, like a routine, and then I would get sick of it and hate it after like a week. And it's just something I've struggled with. I don't know if it's an ADHD thing. I don't know if it's like just a discipline thing. I don't know. But one thing I think is good is you want a bit of chaos and novelty thrown into your routine, like once a week, or you want to do something new and fun and exciting. It just gives you that burst and like makes you excited to live again, which I think is super, super important. Right? For example, trying a new gym, or I don't know, just trying something new in your life. You know, doing a different exercise, a different sport. Doesn't mean you change who you are and you change like, you know, the main sport you play or whatever, but just have a bit of novelty, something new, something chaotic, something that gives you a lot of adrenaline, right? And that is that. Right, the next thing is just general focus. So when you sit down to focus, there's a few things that actually help, right? One is breaking down your tasks into like tangible things. So not just saying, you know, I'm going to sit down and send outreach messages in my business. You actually break it down and you put you make it tangible. So you say 20 minutes of this, or you say send 50 messages, right? You don't just say send messages, because your brain needs to get like some kind of a feedback loop and like a motivation thing of like, okay, by the end of this time, like I'm going to get a reward, right? So let's say I wanted to like create a to-do list. It would be send 50 messages, clear inbox, post 3 stories. That's like tangible, specific tasks that I can tick off and get dopamine from that. Another thing you can do with ADHD that helps you really focus, because we do well with timelines, is we can put a timer in front of us. And I've actually got one over here. Let me grab. Let's say I put a timer for like 10 minutes to post 3 stories. That would be in front of me, and it gives me more urgency to actually do it, right? So that's that. That's in terms of sitting down to do work. All right, and the key thing, honestly, is just living a lower stimuli lifestyle. When you have ADHD and you're living a high stimuli lifestyle, like you're scrolling too much and you're doing all these things, that's the key thing. You can't neglect that. You have to live a pretty normal life, not go crazy, scrolling reels for like hours every single day and doing all this crazy stuff, because you're going to cop it more than the normal people do, I've noticed. So, and at the same time, you can't just be a monk. If you just live like a monk and you get like no stimuli, then you just get nothing. Your brain just feels terrible and like insanely bored. So you still need to like have fun and do things you want to do, like sports and stuff, right? Because yeah, that monk mode, it just doesn't really work long term, especially with ADHD. All right, and I think that's mostly it. Like I've given you some of the specifics, such as like timing your tasks, breaking them down, all that generic stuff you'll find online. But honestly, at least from my experience, the biggest thing with ADHD is you just need to be healthy. When you become a healthy person, you know, you manage your dopamine system correctly, you sleep well, you eat properly, you know, the basics, but the basics aren't easy. It's kind of hard to master, right? So check out the other videos on my channel. It's going to teach you how to go about all those areas. And yeah, let me know your experience with ADHD. Leave a comment or message me. I'm happy to have a chat, give you some more direct, personalized advice. And yeah, I hope you found that useful. Take care.